Forsyth from iCracked. Now they normally fix your iPhone when it's broken, but they're also doing a lot of new work with these digital assistants as well. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Now, during this show, you can get online and you can ask questions, and we'll throw some questions at AJ throughout it. But first, we're going to start with these two digital assistants, and AJ is going to. What do you want to talk about first? Maybe how you use them?
So we'll talk about how we use them, as well as taking them apart and looking at what's different and what's similar. Both of them are meant to operate without a regular user interface or a screen. And we started iCracked as a iPhone repair company, and kind of the next generation of how you interact with your devices is through your voice, not through a screen. And so I'm excited to dive right in here and kind of show you the differences between the two, and then talk about the design ethos behind each of them.
Now, we were going to ask these assistants a couple of questions, but one of the main things you have to realize is getting them set up on the Wi-Fi is kind of tricky. So do we have it on Wi-Fi?
We currently do not. That is,
that's all right.
Bloomberg has tricky Wi-Fi here.
Yes, we do. But we're going to start by pulling them apart. Do you want to start pulling apart the home one first?
So we'll talk about the microphones and how you interact with them. So right here, this is Google Home, and one of the main differences between the Amazon Echo and the Google Home is this is actually a touch interface right here, whereas this is a physical interface for volume. You can also ask them to turn up or turn down the volume, and if you think of these as microphones in your room, that are always listening, but they only are actually activated when you say their wake words. And so some people may feel uncomfortable that, like, hey, this is always listening, but in fact it's only connected to the internet and relaying your commands to either Google services or Amazon services when you say their wake word. So
they're not listening the whole time?
They are listening locally for the wake word, but they won't actually relay any commands
to the internet
until you wake them. So the Google Home actually has only 2 microphones, where Amazon has 7 microphones. And they use a technology called far field communication. So if you think of how you can hear directionally, so I can hear someone from across the room coming from the left. If you think of both Google Home and Amazon Alexa, they can actually tell where you're speaking from. So if you have multiple devices, it can know that you're talking from your living room and not your master bedroom. And it recognizes where you're talking, and
that's pretty cool.
And
so why would it have a touch? Why would it have a touch?
Because it may be most people may not feel comfortable asking for volume to go up or down, and so this is volume up and down, and then you can see the LEDs, which we'll dive into, and then this turns volume up and down as well. One of the things that we're most excited about with these, though, is if you think of both of these devices as the center of your smart home. These are going to control everything from your lights to your thermostat to your security system to your locks, and
no more fiddling with your smartphone.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty interesting concept, where you actually it feels, after you set one of these up and you're playing music, it feels unnatural to pull out your phone and select a song. You should actually just say, "Okay, Google, play Mumford and Sons," and with this new interface.
So Google Home's talking to us now a little bit. What's she saying?
I think she said she had problems connecting to the internet.
Cool.
And she said she loved this podcast.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, I should mention our podcast, Decrypted. It's out today, and we speak to an AI pioneer at Stanford all about these digital assistants and which one is good, which one is bad. Anyway.
Yeah, so we're going to dive in. If there are any privacy concerns, the cool thing is both Amazon, this is your Amazon Echo on the left, and Google Home both put mute buttons. And one of the really unique things about these mute buttons is when they're activated, they actually shut power off to the microphone. So there may be this lingering.
Did I switch that one off?
You just turned off the microphones.
Oh, I did.
And so when this is red, this actually means that there's 0 power getting to the microphones, and that's actually, for people that are concerned with security, this is actually an analog circuit, meaning that there's digital circuits which can basically tell you that it is on or off, but it's actually always on. It just tells you that it's off. Where analog, it actually shuts off the power. So,
but are these, if you shut off the power, are they at all useful?
No, they're not. Okay. but they are beautiful.
Okay, right. Okay.
But let's start taking it apart.
Yeah,
and I can show you some of the insides of this. So we'll start with the Google Home. And I'm just going to unplug it right here. One of the cool things that they did is you can customize these bases. And so if you're putting it in your living room and you would want a gray base, you can do that. And it's attached by a magnet. So you can start pulling it off like that. And then you can see that we're exposing the 3 speakers and drivers. And
you said how many speakers? 2? Oh, that's 3 speakers, but 2 microphones? Is that right?
Yes. So the 2 microphones you can see are right here, and then the speakers are at the bottom. So I'm going to pull, I'll pull the second base off so you can see that there's different options right here. And then we can start seeing the circuitry. So here's where the power goes in. One of the interesting things is, I don't know if they were designing this to be wirelessly charged, but there's some circuitry in here that is meant to receive electricity, but they haven't announced anything on that. And then we can see here's the touch interface. But so I'm going to be pulling this off right here, and then we can see that
that comes apart easily.
Yes, and so we can see that here's a gasket to help dampen some of the noise, and then we can start seeing some of the circuitry inside here. So right here, there's the 10 LEDs, and then these are the 2 drivers. The chips on here are for to power the microphones, and then this is the touch surface. Touch surface right there, and then here's the button that is actually shutting off power to the microphones when it's activated right there. So it's actually, if you break down the components, it's very similar to what's in a smartphone. There's just no.
And I heard it's very similar to Chromecast. Is that right?
Yes. So they are designed by the same company, so I think their supply chains are as efficient as possible. Okay. But if you think of this as a smartphone with no user interface, where the user interface actually is your voice instead of a screen, that's really how you can start thinking about the future, where it feels weird pulling out your phone to control things when you should just tell your home to do it, and it does it. But
so you don't think these things will ever have mini screens on them?
I don't think so. I think it's very deliberate to have them not have screens. So we're going to start taking apart the Amazon Echo right now.
Before we do that, I've got we got a question already, which is good. Here we go. Why are they shaped like this? Why not make them smaller?
So that's actually that's a great question. So Amazon has what's called a Echo Dot, which is right here. And so if you think of the Dot as the smaller brother of the Amazon Echo, the thing is this doesn't have that good of speakers on it, so you have to plug it into a Sonos or a separate set of speakers. But with these dots, I have one of these dots in every room of my house.
You do?
And you can walk home and say, turn on the lights, turn off the television, set the temperature to this. And since they're in every room, it's like having a assistant in every room.
Wow, wow.
Awesome.
And you have to set up link with all the apps for your TV and things like that to make that happen?
So setup is a huge pain in the neck. So I think one of the issues as we're moving to the smart home or Internet of Things enabled house is there's this canyon between the time you buy a device and the time that it's actually set up and working, and you don't really know how to connect everything. You don't want to make accounts on Apple, Google, and Amazon, and like, do they all play nice? And so one of the awesome things that we're doing with iCracked is we have this network of 5,000 technicians around the U.S. that are performing iPhone and Android repair right now. And we're actually going to start moving into smart home and IoT-enabled services. So we believe that like technology fundamentally should be easy. You should just press a button and it should work. The problem is that there's this massive gap between when you buy it and when it's set up, and we want to fill that gap with our on-demand iTechs all around the U.S. So
let's start pulling. Maybe we'll start pulling apart this.
Yep, let's do it. So I'm going to be taking out the 4 screws. Right here, and then we'll start removing the casing on this.
Maybe while you screw, I will ask another question here. Hold on a minute. Let's see. Oh, what's the? Well, actually, the battery life. There's no need for battery life.
So there's no batteries in these.
They're just plugged in.
Just
they don't move around anyway, so they stay in one place. So
there is there's a really interesting point made by a journalist that I follow named Benedict Evans, where these actually don't have power buttons because they're always meant to be always on. And we're moving to this a world where you shouldn't turn things off. They should always be on and ready for you. And so both Amazon and Google designed these as pieces of art to be always on in your home, not something that you want to hide, and something that you want to proudly display.
Now, we had another question here about WhatsApp. It's about video calling, but I'll change it because obviously there's no screens on these. But if can you use these to send a WhatsApp text to someone or anything like that yet?
Not yet. So that's actually a huge friction point. Is the one thing you can't do with either Google or Amazon is start responding to iMessages or start calling people.
Okay.
You can use them if you're connected to Bluetooth as a speakerphone, which is neat, but it's still not. It hasn't
read
been
you your emails or your text or anything.
So it actually can read emails, but it's still not perfect on responding to and having conversations. If you think of it, it's meant to talk to your home and control your home and music and lighting and temperature. It's not necessarily meant to call your best friend.
Okay, let's dive in a little deeper.
Yep. So we have a ribbon cable right here that we're going to have to disconnect real fast.
And then you said 7 microphones in this one?
Yes, so this has the 7 microphones, which we'll get into.
Okay.
You can see one visibly right here, and then there's 6 on the perimeter.
Cool.
And so we're gonna start pulling this apart, and we're gonna disconnect these 2 cables. So this is the power supply as well as unit that actually controls the speakers. One of the things that both Amazon and Google did was they made this like a beautiful sounding high fidelity speaker. So you shouldn't, this is has the potential to replace your Sonos. And
I paid $400 for my Sonos.
you know,
what?
So my, when Sonos came out, like I absolutely loved the company, but now my Sonos just sits on the shelf and we don't use it anymore. So we're gonna start removing this part, which this is actually, one of the cool things about how both companies design these devices is the repairability is actually pretty high. So it's if you're a tinkerer, you like taking things apart, like our iTex do.
That's pretty simple. Again.
And that was only 4 screws holding this on. And so this is actually pretty interesting. On a side note, I actually think that I was thinking about this. I think there's going to be a small little cottage industry that pops up that customizes cases for these devices.
Because that came off really quickly.
Yeah, so this came off. This is the speaker shroud, and then we have some dampening fabric right here, which we'll be removing.
That's dampening sound?
Yes, so it doesn't rattle or vibrate. There's a little bit of adhesive on this flex cable that we'll get out.
You have to glue that back on afterwards, or no?
I think if you get this deep, I think you're okay. All right, so we remove that fabric. We'll set this aside. And then you can start seeing the brains of the Amazon Alexa, and then we can see Google Home's right next.
That's quite different.
It is, and it feels like Amazon designed this more as a utility, and Google designed this more as a piece of art. And I think that
you mean even inside?
Even inside. So we do hundreds of thousands of smartphones repairs a year, and the difference on industrial design between Android and iOS is actually staggering. Like the inside of an iPhone is beautiful, whereas the inside of an Android, most Androids are like have high utility and are meant to get work done. But
so this is a sign they might be changing their tactics.
So I'm actually wildly impressed with Google on their Pixel and then their Google Home and then their new Wi-Fi. They all look like a family of products together, which we haven't seen Google do historically in the past with hardware. But both of these internal designs are quite amazing. So we can see right here on the Google Home, this is at the analog mute switch for the 2 microphones. So you can kind of hear it clicking, and then the 2 microphones are actually right here, where we can see that they're connected through this ribbon cable that we just took apart. And then we're going to dive into the microphones on the Amazon Echo.
Before you do that, there's an interesting question online about why hasn't Apple done this already? Because this seems like when you're talking about industrial design, it's perfect for that.
So, I'm definitely not going to speak on behalf of Apple, but I think that Apple's assistant is Siri. So they actually may want their assistant to always be your phone, where you can, with iOS 10, you can actually enable a feature where you don't ever touch your phone, but when you say, hey Siri, that actually activates features very similar to the Amazon Echo and Google Home. But I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with a product in the near future. I can't harp on this enough though. These products don't play well together. So Google products, Apple products, and Amazon products, they're all trying to build platforms that everyone else plays on their platform. So
if I have an iPhone, I can't control my Google Home very well?
No, you actually can through an app, but there's some points where you can control Nest a lot better than other products.
Which is the thermostat.
Okay. So we can see that here's one of the speakers. So this is a high fidelity tweeter, and then you see a more deep bass speaker right there. But we're gonna keep diving into right here.
Great. While he's fiddling, just want to remind everyone about our decrypted podcast.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he listened to it, which was very good. You can subscribe on iTunes, or if you've got an Android phone, I think Pocket Casts is a good one to subscribe to it. Let's see, the top's coming off.
So we're gently pulling off the top right here, and then.
Broken any of these?
That's a rude question.
Is it?
Of course I've broken them.
Okay. Is that a rude question for a teardown person?
No. Well, so the reason we started iCracked was because I kept breaking my own device.
Okay.
And
when you were fiddling with it, or just dropping it?
Dropping it. And on the 5th or 6th time, I took it apart, fixed it myself. Luckily, I had friends that were in the same boat as me, and we built a company where anywhere in the U.S. right now you can put in a request on iCrack.com, and we'll send someone to your home or your office and do the repair. So breaking things is the mother of invention.
Okay.
So we see here's a ribbon cable that we're gonna open up right there, and then we actually are gonna start pulling this off. It's a little lever.
Aha.
So is the first podcast today?
It's actually the first podcast I've done, but...
Are you nervous?
Well, it's already out, so that's fine. Already done. But we've done a whole series.
That is so awesome.
This latest one's about the AI assistants and whether any of them are good. And this AI pioneer, he did make a call on which one was better, but I can't tell you. You have to listen.
So,
of course.
So one of the interesting things that I think both Apple, Google, and now Amazon have pioneered is this idea that these are artificial intelligence when they're not there yet. So if you expect to have a conversation with them, you can't fully engage them. But if you ask them what the weather is, they can tell you. But there's certain questions that you're very limited in context to how they respond. But I think we'll get there as time and technology progresses.
So why would the Alexa have 7 microphones and Google only 2?
So that's actually that's a very good question. So Google has been using a ton of machine learning on the best algorithms to listen. So I actually prefer Google's 2 over Amazon's 7.
You mean performance-wise?
Yes,
oh.
And it's insane that you can be playing music in a loud room and you can say, "Okay, Google," and just these 2 microphones pick up directionally where you are, lower the music, and start listening to you.
Does Alexa do that, but it just needs 7 microphones to do it?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to microphone hardware is actually very cheap, and so I think they were thinking the more the better. That's not neither right or wrong, but it's just a different design ethos.
Okay.
So we can see that this is the volume control that normally sits right there. We can see that this is the ribbon cable that connects the microphones, volume buttons, mute button to the logic board right there, and we can actually dive in and look at these a little bit deeper.
Great. And why do you think Amazon called the assistant Alexa and Google just did Google Assistant, which is very, very boring?
So that's a great question. So My theory on it is Amazon actually wanted to humanize the assistant, where they gave it a name. You can call it Alexa or Echo, and you can set that up when you're setting her up initially. Whereas Google actually went with OK Google as the wake word, and I think that comes down to people are used to like Googling things, and Siri really paved the way to have a assistant. Microsoft has Cortana.
Yeah.
Apple has Siri, Amazon has Alexa. It's kind of interesting that Google actually went away from a human name and you're actually talking to the company versus your own assistant named Alexa,
Probably
Cortana.
It's probably all branding.
It is actually.
Probably paid someone a lot of money to help them decide that.
We're in the wrong business.
Let's see. There's some other questions online. Here we go. You talked a little bit about this, but. Talk a little bit more about privacy issues. That there have been instances of these devices being hacked, maybe, have there so far?
So there hasn't been any reported incidences of either Alexa or Google being hacked. There are, however, security concerns, which is why it's so important if you are nervous about this that you can turn off the microphones and shut the power off to them at any time. What is interesting is at a conference recently, Jeff Bezos didn't answer the question directly as if there's been any court orders on accessing someone's device in their home.
I see. Or the stream of conversations you've had in your home.
So that, I don't know how you necessarily want to read into that or not. So we're going to be, we removed the 4 screws on here.
Oh, wow.
And then so now we're getting it, here's the mechanism that tells if you're turning the volume up or down.
Yeah, could you explain that a little bit more? What's that?
Yes, so this is on the top of the Amazon Echo. You can actually turn the volume, whereas Google's has a touch interface right here. And so this is the mechanism that actually tells to turn the volume up or down.
And then what are these other bits? Sorry, that's not a technical term.
No, that is a technical term.
Bits? Oh, it is. I suppose it is. That's not what I was referring to.
So, so we're actually diving in right here. So this is the volume control knob, and then you can see where the 6 microphones are. So we have
This is the Echo we're looking at.
This is the Echo. So we have a microphone right here, and then there's 6 right there, and then you see the one in the center.
Yeah.
And then these chips are all the drivers used to control each microphone independently, so that when you're talking from the right side of the room, you're actually, it's only receiving info from these 2 microphones versus getting information from all of them. And then these on the side, these are actually the LEDs that can tell you volume or tell you when she's listening. One of the interesting things on the Google Home is they went with a multicolored LED, and it's kind of more friendly, whereas Amazon it's either blue, white, or red. There's not any light shows like Google will actually do. And then we can pull this off a little bit, dive in here. And we can see these are the 2 buttons. This turns off the microphones, and then this is actually a manual button if you want to talk to it. And so you can see these buttons coming through there. The really interesting things is why we're so excited to get into smart home and IoT is all the components in both of these devices are basically the same components from the smartphone supply chain.
Okay.
So the smartphone supply chain has enabled an array of new devices, and this is just a new way to communicate with your apps without a screen, just using your voice.
It's a smartphone in a tube.
We should coin that. Have you trademarked that?
Not yet. I will. Let's see. There are some other questions here. Hold on. Oh, this is a bit open-ended, but are there any flaws that you've discovered with the devices so far? I suppose maybe hardware flaws to start with?
So hardware flaws, we haven't, as a company, come across any. Software flaws, the problem is you think the capabilities of these devices are greater than they actually are. And so when it's somewhat disheartening when you ask either Amazon or Google Home a question and it doesn't give you the answer you're looking for. You feel like you're wasted the 5 seconds asking them a question. So I think that over time, as the machine learning and artificial intelligence software progresses on both these platforms, those software flaws are going to go away. But from a hardware perspective, it's just think of them as microphones and speakers that are always on.
Okay.
Because
so what's going to really improve is not some of these guts. It's going to be the software in the background.
Absolutely. So you need to think of Microsoft Cortana, Apple Siri, Amazon Alexa, and Google Home. You need to think each of those as cloud services and platforms, and this is just a portal to talk to them.
Right.
So when you ask Google Home, hey, who won the World Series recently? Who won the World Series?
Cubs. All right.
It was amazing.
I am British.
It's actually awesome. And so when you ask who won the World Series, that's not processing the request on the device itself. That's sending that request to the respective services cloud, and the cloud is coming back and telling you that the Cubs won the World Series. So, so you really need to think of these as always on microphones and speakers. They're not actually computers per se that are processing the requests themselves. They're just relaying the messages to the cloud to process, to come back and give you hopefully the response you're looking for.
Let's see, we might have some more questions here. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, how easily do these break? Have you dropped any?
So I've played the music too loud and it fell off my mantle.
Because it's vibrating?
Yes.
Which one?
Actually the Amazon Alexa.
Oh, even though it has the damping bit?
Yes. So
this one would seem to more roll off the counter rather than drop off.
So they're surprisingly loud. Like, as I mentioned before, it's actually replaced my speaker system. So right now we're a repair company where anywhere in the US will send a technician to repair your smartphone. We actually don't think we're going to be repairing smart home or IoT appliances. We think we're going to be the installation arm where you'll be able to press a button and have your thermostat, your lights, your smart lock, your security system installed. But I don't foresee either these breaking per se.
And we're going to wrap up in a little while, but do you need to pull any more bits apart?
We can if you're game.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we'll. I'm going to be taking apart the Google Home some more.
Cool. While you're doing that, let's see if there's some other questions. Oh, do these devices offer APIs, which is just a thing for outside developers to use?
So that's a great question. So both of these devices want other companies to, so an API is a access point for one service to talk to another service. And so you can actually right now, you can request an Uber from both devices or a Lyft from both devices. And that's actually a really cool experience when you're getting ready to leave the house and you say, Alexa, call me an Uber, and then an Uber just shows up. And that actually happens from a partnership between Amazon and Uber to open up those APIs. Okay. And you can literally say, Alexa, order me a Domino's pizza, and a pizza shows up.
That's good. Not delivered by a drone.
Not yet.
Soon.
So I'm so excited for drone delivery. Do you have a drone?
I do not have a drone.
You need to get one. It has changed my life.
I tried flying one and it was bad.
Did you crash it?
Kind of. And that was a few years ago when they were a lot more expensive. That's a bit crazy. Yeah, tell us more what you're doing here.
So I'm taking apart the band that holds the speakers in on the Google Home right now. So we see that we're taking this apart, and then we have 8 screws to actually start getting into the guts of this a little bit more.
Wow. And what is that big silver thing in the middle there?
So this is, if you think of this as the central brains of the device.
That's so the SoC?
So this is called the logic board, and then this is the main chip that relays communication to and from the cloud. What are some other questions we have?
Let's have a look. Let's see. Do you know what designers worked on these devices, the look of them? Because especially the Google one looks kind of cool.
So the Google one, I think, so here we'll have a fully assembled one. So I mentioned before, you can customize the base on these. And this, to me, this looks more like a piece of art than Amazon's does. However, the functions are very similar, but I feel like there was a lot more aesthetic design put into the Google product than Amazon, and I think that may go back to just one's. To me, it feels like one's a utility and one's almost like an art form that you're proud to show off. But the Amazon has over 1,000 people on the Alexa and Echo team, which is crazy.
Wow. Let's see. Will there be software updates like iOS for iPhones? Things like that?
Yes, so that happens when you first set it up. It pushes a software update, and given that these are just a relay to the cloud, the updates happen automatically in the background. So it's not a traditional, hey, spend time updating. It does it while you're sleeping.
That's good. That's easy.
It is.
All right. That's great. And then let's see. I'm interested, even though we didn't ask some questions, I'm interested, when we were doing this podcast, we asked some questions, the professor asked some questions, and there was one where Alexa, we asked a question of all of them, and Alexa was the only one to not get the answer, and it was actually an Amazon book.
Was it?
From Amazon. It didn't get it, which was very weird. But have you seen any, as far as answering questions, which one is the best?
So, I'm gonna have to go with Google on this. Like
Really?
I have both of them set up in my home. And if you think about Google, they're a search engine. So their whole business is built on whatever requests you have, finding you the answer, where Amazon is a e-commerce platform, and then you have AWS and their cloud division. But Google's business is search, so it should be able to find the answers more accurately. And this is all my opinion.
Okay.
None of this is based in fact. But the neat thing about Amazon's Echo is it's actually built around your order history. So you can say, hey, Alexa, order me some soap, and it knows what soap you've purchased in the past and orders it, and it just shows up 2 days later.
Pretty easily.
So
and is this, are we all the way in yet?
We are almost there. So this is the brain of the Google Home, which we'll pull this out. And then we'll set this aside. So this is, right now we just have a speaker enclosure.
Huh.
And then so we have the power control chips, the Wi-Fi chip, and then the microphones connect right here. And then we can see.
And what is the Alexa version of that? Is it this thing?
Yes. So the Alexa version of that is actually right here.
Okay.
So, so you can see that it going back to, these are basically smartphone components on speakers that are connected to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and microphones. Really, the smartphone supply chain has enabled all of this. So smartphones, they've been around for 15 years, and they birthed this new generation of chips that are in both of these devices.
So now we've got into the guts. Maybe stand back a little bit and share some final thoughts.
So this is poised to replace your smartphone screen when you're at home or at the office, and I can't tell you how refreshing it is when you walk home and you just and your home knows to turn on the light, set the temperature to how you like it, play the music you like, have the alarm set up when you leave the house. Like, that is such a cool experience where it takes these bits of apps. So it takes your Nest app, it takes your Amazon app, it takes these bits of apps and then puts it to be controlled with your voice. And that is a incredible world to live in, where your house knows what your preferences are and what to do. But it comes back to just microphones that are always on, listening for every command you have. And
which one of these two, or which company?
Oh, you're going to ask that?
Is doing well? Yeah, we want to know. So far, it seems that they actually have different purposes in my mind. I think Google is more search relevant and finding answers. For me, which type of person would want these two things?
If you're an avid Amazon Prime user, I would definitely go with the Amazon Echo, because you can just tell it to order things and it orders everything on Amazon. Where if you're looking for I would say more obscure answers or questions that you normally type in Google, I'd go with Google Home. They both do very similar jobs of solving your basic needs, but I would say neither has reached like your full AI or assistant where you can converse with it. But you can ask very pointed questions, but I wouldn't expect to have a conversation or make a new best friend.
Okay, well, thank you very much, AJ.
Thank you, this was awesome.
So you've been watching Bloomberg Technology on Facebook Live, and don't forget to download our new decrypted podcast. Thanks very much.
Congratulations on the launch of that today.
Thank you.
It was awesome.